This is my first official video. I'm super nervous. I've never really made a video for Instagram before. So here we are. I am out here kind of up this canyon near my house. You can kind of see where I'm at here because, well, I have a house full of kids and a husband and cats, and it's just really crowded and noisy there. Plus, it's my favorite weather, and it's rainy and moody and cloudy and dark and kind of sort of fallish, and I'm wearing a sweater. I love it. So got my chai, so it's going to be, you know, super nice today, and I love that. And so I kind of wanted to be out in that weather today. So I don't know, I'm doing this video and I'm nervous, like I said, because I'm just gonna introduce myself, but also, like, there's certain part of everything that I just kind of, I want to be really authentic. I want to be really upfront and really honest about things. I'm trying to live my life in that way right now. I recently stepped away from organized religion. I was raised and born and lived my life until I was 41 years old in the Mormon church. It's a very high demand, very patriarchal religion. And so, I mean, that's a whole other story by itself, and it's super, you know, important to me, obviously. You know, I have a lot of facets there that maybe I'll talk about here or there or whatever. My goal typically in leaving wasn't really to talk about that at all. If you're happy in the church, yay, go for you. You know, keep doing that. I'm happy for you. I was not. And this isn't meant to be like a trash the church kind of a thing. I don't really want to do that, but at the same time, like I just have these experiences and I want to be honest about them. I want to be realistic about them. And I think that's my right to be. It's everybody's right to have their experiences and to portray those experiences the way that is true to them. And so if you're offended by that kind of a thing, or if you're like, I'm going to defend the church to my death or whatever, then like, this isn't the place for you, and that's fine. You know, I'm not looking for contention. I'm not looking for a fight. I won't fight with you. Like, you can defend it. I will delete your comments, and that's totally fine. It's not what I want on my feed. But, you know, in my space, this is absolutely within my rights to talk about these things. So I'm going to say it. I think other people need to hear it. I needed to hear these kinds of things when I was going through that transition. And so I think it's important. I think it's important to say them so nobody feels alone, because nobody is alone, and a lot of people feel alone. Anyway, like I said, like, the goal in this conversation isn't really to say anything about, you know, my deconstruction story or leaving the church or anything. But my feed, if you have noticed recently, has been all about magic and my spells and my potions and things like that. And so I kind of just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like, there's a lot of questions that I get about that it feels just very strange. It feels strange to some people to be like, oh, you're like this gung-ho Mormon girl, 6 kids, you know, taught Relief Society presidency, everything, from for all intents and purposes, and what we looked like, we were like this perfect Mormon family. First of all, looks can be deceiving. Not everything is what it appears. So, you know, but from there, how did I go from being what uber Christian to being a witch. And why witchcraft? What kind of thought process is there? Well, first of all, anybody who knows anything about me, in the sense that they actually know me and have gotten to know me instead of just the person that I have pretended to be my whole life, where I portrayed that good Mormon girl and appeared to be really involved and really believing and all those things, because that wasn't entirely true. I think to a large degree, I've always tried to be authentic. There were things that, and anyone who has been Mormon, even if you're an active believing Mormon, you'll understand that there are things that you just don't talk about, you don't oppose, you don't portray that you have any problem with them in public, or like in a family setting, like if you have in-laws or you have friends or anything, because if you express any of those opinions, there's a very real probability that you will be ostracized for that. And so therefore you just kind of learn to just shut up. You just shut up. You don't say anything. You don't express your opinion. You might have an opinion against certain things, but you don't talk about it. And if you disagree with something, you just learn to just kind of just not say anything at all. You can disagree like in your mind, or maybe you have a friend or a parent or a partner that you can rant to later about it, but otherwise you don't say anything. And so there are a lot of people in my life who knew that part of me, that were like, oh, but you went to church every Sunday and your kids are super active and you're really intelligent and educated on the church topics, and the Book of Mormon, and these things. Well, I did. And you saw that part of me, but you didn't see all of me. And so anybody who knows me well, knows that witchcraft and going this direction just really is not that strange. I've had tarot cards and oracle cards since I was a teenager. I have always had this strange little intuition or premonition kind of a thing, where I can basically kind of just predict the future. Like there's things that just happen and I'm like, I knew that was going to happen. It's, I don't advertise it. I don't talk about it, because part of that is that the religion that I grew up in is it's patriarchal. So it's so patriarchal to the point that, women, we just don't have any, like, not rights, but we don't have any power. We are never the head of the household. We are never in decision-making positions. We can't hold the priesthood. And I'm not here to argue about whether or not women are repressed. Personally, I felt that way. I felt that way because everything in the church taught me to repress my intuition. It taught me to defer to whatever male was closest to me, relation-wise or authority-wise, in order to compare my own desires and thoughts and aspirations to. And my aspirations and thoughts and feelings and everything could only be validated if they aligned with that next closest male. And of course, that next closest male could only be correct if he also aligned with whatever the church was teaching at the time, because the church changes all the time. Believe it or not, like whether or not you like it or whether or not you want to admit it, it does. It changes all the time. And so whether or not you like that, that's the way it was, is that I can only be validated by the next closest man, and that man is only validated if he also aligned completely with the church and whatever teaching is going on. So for me to be taught constantly to ignore my intuition, to ignore the feelings that I had, to ignore whatever, I guess, like revelation, like I can have revelation. We can call it revelation. It's the same thing. Revelation, intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's really the same thing. And I was taught to ignore those things unless they aligned with a certain thing, certain level, certain people, certain teachings. And so for me, it was that way. But this is not, this isn't really a weird transition. I think it feels really weird for a lot of people who are LDS, and that is the majority of the people I know, I think. And that's because I was raised in Utah. I have most of my family is in Utah. Most of my friends are in Utah. And so that overlaps a lot. And so for a lot of people in the church who have been taught that, any power besides God's power, which is the priesthood and only the priesthood, and only men hold the priesthood, and only women can only access the priesthood through men. And like, I know that lately they've been giving these talks about how women have always held the priesthood and stuff, which is just not, it's not true and it's not real. It's just very gaslighty. And that's actually not, it's not, if that were the case, then why aren't they actually giving it? They're like, you have it all the time, Dorothy, with your ruby slippers. But at the same time, they're still not allowing us to have the priesthood or be given the priesthood via blessings and laying on of hands. And therefore, because we don't have the priesthood, we can't bless babies. We can't bless our children when they're sick. We can't even hold our babies during their blessings. We can't hold leadership positions, Anyway, whatever, if you think it's fair, whatever you do, you. I'm not here to cause problems. It's just my experience. But when it comes down to it, I feel and have always felt extremely repressed in that sense that the church has taught me that any power that women have is not of God. Now, I'm at a point here where I don't believe in God at all. I'm atheist. I think I'm atheist slash agnostic. And what I believe is, I believe in an afterlife. I don't believe that there is a necessity for a God or an all-powerful being in order for there to be an afterlife. I don't really know what comes next, and I'm actually super fine with that. I don't get, super scared anymore because I just... that's another story, because like I said, like, this isn't just a one and done. Like, there's a lot of layers and a lot of aspects to this and everything that it comes down to. But it just doesn't, that's another thing entirely. So I don't want to go off on that tangent. But when I left the church, and I left the church not because, oh, I want to be a witch or whatever. I left the church because it just started to just kind of unravel. I'd been putting things on my shelf for years and years and years. It took me about 4 to 6 years, about that time frame. It was around 2018 when I really started to kind of have these concerns and problems, but I hung in there, like I had teenage kids and everything, and my older kids, they left before me, which if they hadn't left, I'd probably still be there, because frankly, I couldn't imagine one of them getting married in the temple or something and then me not being able to go. Like, I will lie through my teeth in order to be able to be there for my kids. So yeah, I said that. Anyway, but they left, and I'm so glad they did, because, oh my gosh, I didn't want to be there. I was so miserable, and I chose to leave before I even figured out all of the things about it that weren't true. I just chose to leave because I was beginning to feel that the church was no longer good. It wasn't good the way that I was taught it was good. It didn't teach the things that I was taught that it teaches, because it just doesn't. It just does not align. And so I left. But in the meantime, when I left, because I didn't have that hanging over my head anymore, where I had to repress my intuition, where I wasn't really allowed to have my own revelation, as long as, that didn't align in some way or another with another man. Because I left, things very, very quickly began to present themselves in a way. I found that I felt very, very connected to not only people, but like other animals and the weather and people just walking down the street. I could feel certain vibrations, and I just feel very close and very connected to other people in this way, which is what I've always wanted. It's more than just fitting in. It's being like a part of a bigger thing, and not just because, oh, I'm special, I'm a child of God, and I'm a princess, and which really puts an emphasis on you just, it's dog eat dog. Like, you take care of yourself and you make sure you get those mansions in heaven. And any kind of service is really because, like, you're just trying to make it there and be put on a show of how good you are. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, because I know that there are good Mormons out there that are just like the best of people. Like, you really, really are. And you are very serviceable, and you think of other people, and you want to serve them and love them. But in my experience, like, that's just not the majority. So I'm sorry. Again, this is my experience. If it's not you, if that doesn't fit you, then it's not about you and it's not for you. So you can just move right along. Anyway, as those kind of intuitions and things just kind of came to the surface, it just became very, very natural for me to be like, I'm going to do a spell. I'm going to try this candle magic, and I am going to manifest through meditation, and I'm going to do these things because it feels right to me and it feels good to me, and I feel like I have some power. I have some power over myself. Power, I mean, like, I don't really feel like I'm a control freak, but I think coming out of a high demand religion where I had no control over my own self, my choices, my body, I didn't have any of those choices. Like, there was a semblance of a choice. It's like, well, there are two choices. You can make the right choice, or you can make the wrong choice. And if you make the wrong choice, then there's going to be consequences. So your free agency isn't really about choosing what you want. Your free agency is about making the right choice. You're not really free to choose. You're just given the choice so that you will choose the right choice. And that right choice was a different opinion about from the men in my life and the patriarchy who wanted me to be or do or act a certain way and look a certain way, versus myself and what I wanted. And now, I'm not going to say, like, I don't regret my previous life. Like, I've always I've always been kind of dancing to the beat of my own drum. I've always been a bit of an outcast. I mean, look at this. This is my church bag before I turned it into my purse. I wore that every week. I raised my hand. I said things that contradicted. I've always been the black sheep. I've never really fit in anyway. So it's not really like I lost everything. I was scared too. I was scared I'd lose everything, but I didn't lose anything, because the people who I love and who I aligned with when I was in the church, they're still my friends. And the people who I didn't align with and who didn't respect me or anything before, we're not friends. And it's fine. Like, we're not like enemies either. Like, it's fine. If I see them at the store, I'll wave. I'm just saying that I don't miss it. I don't miss it because I have been able to fill all of that space that I thought was going to be empty with connections and feelings and what Mormons call the spirit. Like, you don't have a monopoly on that. I can feel that kind of a spirit and that peace and that burning in my bosom through a lot of different practices and a lot of different ways. And it's just kind of been just this natural progression. It just is. And it may feel a little bit weird to you that I'm like, oh yeah, like now I'm a witch, from Mormon to witch. But if you really have an issue with that, go and look up the beginning of the church and what the Urim and Thummim really is, and what Joseph's, his snake cane, his serpent cane. Check out the treasure digging that he used to do and the magic parchment. If you really need to connect something in a way that makes you feel better about my witchcraft, then you can kind of connect those, because the entire original beginnings to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were based on witchcraft and folklore. So you don't have to believe it. Like, I know that to a lot of people, magic and witchcraft and everything seems just really strange. I am the kind of person, and I do believe that everything that you put out comes back to you. I'm not the kind of person who's going to be going around and doing hexes, those kinds of things. More along the lines of my own personal witchcraft is just connection, energy, feeling connected to other people and being kind. And frankly, my goal in life is just joy and autonomy and authenticity. And I want that for everyone, not just myself. And so where I get that this is a little strange for those who know me in person and who are like, what happened to her? Where did she take that really sharp turn? If you knew me very well, you know it's not that weird. It's actually very normal for me. This is what I am without the constructs and the gilded cage of a high demand religion. And this is what I would have been a long time ago had I been allowed to make those decisions for myself. And you know, and if you didn't know that part of me before, then, you know, like, give me a call, send me an email, send me a message, let's talk. I would love the opportunity to get to know you in a way that, and for you to get to know me in a way that we can know those things about each other and say, I know that about you and it's not that strange. Welcome to my page. I hope you stay for a while.